they
Mhm.
don't spend enough time in the live action series focusing on the fact that Aang needs to master the other elements.
Yes.
Part of that is because, as we talked about last time, they don't give us the ticking clock in the show. They don't
Mhm.
put that timer on him, which is super important. And it's important enough where this episode opens with Aang literally having an anxiety attack, basically, about the
Yes.
fact that he needs to master the elements like now. And
And
that becomes
throughout
a.
these episodes and all the next every episode throughout, like we are constantly reminded of that fact.
Mhm.
And that is a key to building the tension in the show and how
Yeah.
like how the audience is like, oh wait, the stakes have raised so much. Now we really, if they don't do this, what's gonna happen? They really need to do this. Like
Yeah.
it
And it makes it
raises the
too
stakes so much.
or even the like episodes that you would classify more as like the side quest ones similar to the first handful of episodes, those still then even have more tension in them, because if you're spending time doing that, that's not time
That's
devoted
wasting
to.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is a big deal, and like it's wasting time in a meaningful way. It's not just like spending time doing stuff. It's like
Hmm.
this is bad that they're not like like not bad in a like negative way, but like,
Hmm.
oh no, they need to like focus on doing the mastering the elements and things.
It's like if
And
you have like
so
an essay due and
you're
in
just
like a
not doing
day and
it.
you're like "Ah, everything you're not doing is stressful.
Yeah,
You're like, I should be doing this right now. If you have work and you're like, I gotta work on that essay that's due tomorrow. Like, oh my
yeah.
God.
And
You
so
feel
it
the
just like
pressure the closer and closer you get.
it builds that tension, and then it also, by not having any focus on them practicing the elements, it's going to feel so rushed whenever he does start, like, because he has to master them by the end, right? And so
Yeah.
they're just gonna like fast forward through, I feel like, him getting that
This
practice,
development.
whereas
Yeah.
in the animated series you see him consistently through the episodes practicing and learning stuff. And then I
And gaining a
also.
new skill each episode. Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And I also made note for this episode, which is something I hadn't really thought about too much before, but I think that Aang, like establishing how quickly he picks up waterbending in this episode, is really important for
Hmm.
playing into his frustration when he's not able to pick up earthbending and firebending that quickly, like later on, because he's like,
Yes.
well, I did this. Like, one, he's the like best airbender to ever exist, essentially. Like,
Yeah, like
it's just like he's
he
great
was a
at it.
child project like prodigy. That was his whole
Yeah,
thing.
like, and
We'll see that
so
in the storm.
yeah, crushed that. Oh yeah, there was one note that I made specifically for the storm that I had forgotten about, but we'll get there.
We'll get there.
um
We'll get there.
but so him being so good at waterbending plays into the character stuff that happens later when he isn't able to master the other elements super quickly, and
Hmm.
that's important.
I didn't
And you
even think about
lose
that. You're right. Yeah.
you lose that by not focusing on him needing to learn it at all. Like, they again don't really bring it up that much. Like, you have the one scene of him and Katara
Hmm.
practicing in the forest. I don't remember which episode that was in the live action show. I feel like it was
Hmm.
pretty early on, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Like
remember
the
them
third
being
or
in the
fourth.
forest and like
Hmm.
running out. Yeah, I feel like it was then, because I think it was before I felt like the show drove off a cliff completely.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I
I
was
agree.
still like,
Yeah. You
this
were
is
still like,
pretty like
I could be
pretty
okay with this.
solid. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is fine. Um, but yeah, but that was basically it. Like, that's the only instance I can think of them practicing bending, aside from when they're in the Fire Nation ship in the pilot. Like,
Yeah. Like when are they really
they don't practice it
uh,
is the problem. They straight up don't. And because we don't get the ticking clock, like, it's just non-existent, and
mhm.
so meh, it's just not
It
there.
just happens. They're like, and by the way, they're good at this now.
Yeah. And
Cool.
so
I'm
you lose
bored.
that. You lose the bending development, you lose the
Yeah.
pirates,
So
who
it
are
doesn't become
fantastic.
exciting when you see them defeat people and you see them use super strong bending. You're like, oh my God, that's awesome because
Mhm.
I
It's earned.
know it's earned. Like I know how long that took them to learn that. I know that how hard that was for them.
Mhm.
And so it becomes cooler. Like if you just see somebody play piano, you're like, cool, great. Like you can play piano. But if you've tried to learn piano and you see how long it takes to learn and the
Mhm.
skills, then you're like, oh, now I
Oh,
really understand how awesome that is and how big of a feat that is.
yeah, it
And that
gives you
works
a
with like
frame of
sports and
reference.
everything. Yeah, frame of like having a frame of reference. Exactly. We don't
And
have
that
that.
it's like and it just compounds so much with like the little moments too. Like we mentioned, seeing Katara do the water whip successfully, like, is a great moment because we saw her earlier struggling really hard with that.
Struggling to do it. Yeah.
Versus in the animated show, she just starts throwing ice discs, and it's like, okay,
We're
well,
like,
she can
what?
just do that
She
now,
can
I
use
guess.
ice.
I
They
didn't
fly
really
now?
see her
They
like
fly now.
like I didn't see her struggle with it at all, so it just It's like, okay, I guess. I mean, sure.
It's like, I guess we could just do that.
Yeah. It's just it's a lack of like letting them live in the world and the characters and earn and like grow. And it's just
Yeah. It's
eh,
sad. Your
why?
mic was on fire for that. Yeah. You're right.
Just for what?
Just for what? Hey, Aspect listener. Enjoying the show?
Then be sure to subscribe here on The Aspect so you never miss an episode.
And check out more episodes and clips on our playlist here.
Thanks so much for watching, and
Lameo Hotman.